Thanks for joining us. I am one of you, and I am a local business owner, and I can't tell you how much Matt Hansen has helped my business. So let's do it.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you hear the fire engine go by, that's always a fun one as well, right?
Yes.
So what we want to talk about today is kind of, I'm going to put it into story form, right? So years ago, my family bought me this racing experience. And I am not somebody, I've driven SUVs my entire life. Yes, I probably speed from time to time, but it has always been one of my goals to ride around a racetrack in some kind of Indy car or Ferrari or something like that. I always thought it would be really interesting, right? So I believe it was for Christmas. The family bought me this experience, this racing experience, and I was so excited. And I thought, okay, this is great, right? My brother has a 1969 Camaro with 800 horsepower in it, right? You hear this thing coming from 3 states over. I've always been kind of jealous of. He's got this really neat car that goes really fast, and I drive SUVs, right? So the idea was. I was going to go into this thing and I was going to go as fast as I possibly could, right? And that's the mindset. I'm going to jump into this car and they're just going to let me go and I'm going to ride around this racetrack. And if you know anything about these racetracks, there's a lot of variables that go into it. So I get there and I'm so excited, and I've got one of my buddies who was my neighbor at the time, and we're both going into this, and he's excited, I'm excited, and we're just put the gear on us, let us jump into this car and let's go. And it was funny. It was a 3-hour experience before we actually hit the test track. And it was all of this. We had to go through training. We had to listen to the coaches. We had to understand the track. They were giving us, here's the accelerator, here's the brake, which, I would hope everyone would know at that point. But we're going into it, and it's the setup of the car, how the car works, how fast the car can go, how you have to listen to the coach in your ear. So we have headsets on today as we're talking. And we had a headset on that we were going through, in the car. So you have this little guy in your ear always telling you what to do, speed up, slow down, watch the curve, all these other things, right? And they're talking about how to drive a car. And I'm sitting here, I'm going, oh, whatever, right? Like, I know how to drive a car. I've been doing this for years, right? Shouldn't be a hard problem, very simple to do. So we get out there. And after 3 hours, they put us in this car. Well, actually, we had to wait probably another half hour to get in the car because there's all this traffic going around, and there's multiple cars on the track as we're going. And I'm laughing. Finally, I get in the car, and adrenaline is running. I'm ready to go. And he says, "All right, go." And I hit the gas, and I'm going down pit road, and I'm we're over at the Joliet Race Speedway over here, which is where they have NASCAR races, right? So I'm going into this track and I have no idea what I'm in for, but I'm going to hit the gas and go. So I hear the guy and he's like, go, 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 go. Faster, faster, faster. Okay, hold it right there. And I get out there on the track, and that's when I realized I know nothing of what's going on. And I'm driving around this track, and if you're driving a car, you're pretty much on a flat surface, right? The car is not leaning one way. There's no degrees of angles involved in it whatsoever. I am literally at a 45, if not more, degree angle driving around this track. And I think, okay, this is an interesting experience. Didn't expect that, but here I am. And I get why this is kind of a cool experience and why this is so neat to people want to drive this. And I'm going around and he's going, speed up, speed up, speed up. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm going 100, right? He's like, no, faster, faster. And I'm thinking, no, I'm going to go fast. I'm going to hit 200, right? And then the mind starts going. And then all of a sudden the G-force starts to build into the race car, right? And I'm realizing I'm fighting a car, I'm fighting gravity, I'm fighting all of these different things. Next thing I know, he's telling me to slow down. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, we're going. He's telling me to slow down. I'm not doing something right. Next thing I know, here comes a car with a professional driver and a passenger, flies right by me. Like, where did that come from? Didn't see that happening. And it was all of these variables that were happening at me at once. And I'm sitting there thinking, I know how to drive. I know how to drive fast. And now I'm in an element where I just don't know what's coming at me next. And that is what happens with most people trying to go out there and do marketing, right? And I love to tell stories. You know this by now. And it really is, It's an experience that you jump in and you're so excited to get involved in, right? So you launch an Instagram page, something along those, a YouTube channel. Maybe it's some kind of Facebook advertising that you're doing, and you go out there and you're all excited and you're like, yeah, we're going to do this, and you start throwing stuff at it. And then you realize you don't know everything. And you get into some sticky situations at that point. And many times what happens is people give up, right? Now, as I'm driving around this track, right, it took me the first lap just to figure out what I was doing. And, if you drive around a racetrack, you're going pretty fast. So it's over like that. That one lap is over. And we only got 3 laps. So by the second lap, I had kind of figured it out. In the third lap, he goes, here's your last lap. Hit it. And at that point, I'm petrified. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm thinking I'm going like 200 miles an hour, right, in my mind, because everything's flying by. And then when we get out, I laughed because, you get your miles per hour. And I think it was like 130 miles an hour. And I thought, that's it? That's all I did? And it was such a smack in the face because what I realized was I was ill prepared to go out into this. I should have gone through a class. I should have paid more attention in the class. There's all these different things. And now my buddy, he passed me, he was doing 150 some or whatever it was. And he was complaining that it was too slow. Well, this is a guy that also races all the time. He's got a Mustang that he races down at the track and all this other stuff. And so it was all of these things. He's extremely comfortable in that space, and he was disappointed. I was uncomfortable in that space, but I wanted more. But it was funny because I asked him, I go, let's do it again. And he's like, nah, that was not worth it for me because he's so used to doing certain things. And I think that's what we're talking about today is really, if you're comfortable with something, it makes sense to go out there and continue to do it. But if you're not comfortable with it, you really need to learn what you're doing before you go out there. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But when, one of the things that the local marketer, this is mastering local marketing, most of the people that are listening, that's not their whole day.
Right.
You are a little chunk. And I'll just tell you my experience is we built this streaming video thing and it took forever and I'm all in on operations and founding and everything. And then it's like, all right, it's time to monetize. And I'm in that position where I don't have very much time at all.
Right.
So whatever is concentrated, I got to get the most out of it. And that's kind of what the whole podcast is about.
Right.
It. So, all right, you're like, geez, I'm busy. But hey, you know what? It's Friday at 2 o'clock. I have 3 hours. Where do you start?
Basically, you just need to look at what you're comfortable with, right? So you've owned a business for years. There are certain things that you are comfortable going out there and doing. Obviously, what we're doing here with the podcast and the radio programs and JED TV and all those types of things, you are comfortable in that area. Many people are not comfortable being put on camera. Many people are not comfortable with hearing their voice, right? So it's an entirely different thing that you're just not used to. So you have that comfort level in this space. If I were to say, I need you to go out there and start designing ads for TikTok and Instagram, you would have no idea where to begin, right?
Well, I would a little bit because I took your digital marketing classes at getting my MBA,
Right.
And I got to tell you, I did a lot of the stuff through the whole MBA. That was one of the most uncomfortable situations was anything you threw at me because I was all operations, all build the business. And that's kind of who I'm talking to is that you own your business or you are a part of a larger business and you're all about make, work. And then you're like, oh, geez, we got to monetize this somehow. And that's what this is about. Right. But I was very uncomfortable doing that in your courses.
Good. I'm glad I succeeded at
Thanks
that.
a lot. I still suck at it. So you did not succeed in that. But
we taught you some things.
All right, let's start with this. Like how many hours do you, if you own a business and you're doing okay, say you got a restaurant or you've got dry cleaners or you've got around here, there's a lot of mini mills and the guy makes, certain cylinders that they sell. I mean, how much of that time should you dedicate to marketing?
Well, I can tell you what the average is, right? So the average is roughly around 7 to 8 hours that a local small business actually puts into it, which is not enough, right? So what they try to do is they try to outsource it. They try to find people that can actually do that, or they hire somebody internally. But that also causes other issues, right? So if you don't know what you're asking for, perfect example was yesterday I had a project and we had asked for a certain deliverable that was supposed to come back. In my mind, I had exactly what I was thinking. When I got it back, it was not anywhere. It wasn't even in the same format that we were looking for. So it really just comes down to you being specific, knowing what you need, and having those discussions with somebody that can take it and run with it. Now, if you're spending 7 to 8 hours on your marketing, that is not a lot of time, right? That's roughly an hour a day in a seven day week, right? So what does that hour entail? And when we say marketing, it is not necessarily you literally out there talking, building all those types of things. There's all kinds of marketing that we're looking at. It could be responding to posts, comments on your social feeds, right? It could be fixing that button on your website that clearly just does not work and you have no idea why it's not working. I had a conversation yesterday with a company that they wanted their phone number on their website. When they click it, they want it to then, people on mobile to be able to start calling, right? So we had the conversations, and the inability for them to understand how the web actually works was the conversation. And they just, people don't know, and that's what we're here. We're trying to spread that word and just say that you may put time into it, but put time into the things that you actually know or want to learn.
Musts.
Oh goodness.
I mean, literally, you're sitting there. There's people listening that I don't know where to start. Right. I mean, I just am overwhelmed right now. I got to say GMB is the way to do it, to start the very first thing. Right. We'll give you some and explain what that means.
Yeah. So, when we look at, you hear the term SEO all the time, right? Search engine optimization. And I'm not going to tell anyone on a local business side that is spending 8 hours a week how to do SEO, because they're not going to understand it, right? So the simplest way that I tell them is you are not going to learn all the coding and all the back end things that have to go into it, and all of the time and effort that goes into it. I had a lawyer that I was working with years ago and wanted to do some SEO work. And I sat them down the very first day. I said, this is not a 2-month process and then we walk away from it. They thought it was. I said, okay, well, we'll work together. But I'm telling you, this is something that has to go forward, right? And we worked on it and we started seeing some results, and then the contract ended. I asked them if they wanted to continue. They said, no, we're good. We like where this is going. They called about a year ago and said, it's not working anymore. I said, the conversation, we had this conversation. You have to realize it's a continual thing that you have to work on. So when you say GMB, Google My Business is probably the easiest SEO that you can do, right? So it's think of it as a directory. When somebody searches for a plumber near me or a restaurant near me or whatever it may be, if you're on Google, it will serve up those companies within the close range, right? So yesterday, I was looking for a restaurant for something that we're doing, and I was going through it, and they were all ranked, and I'm looking through each one of them, and I was looking at their ratings and reviews and all this stuff, and that really helped me decide who we were going to use. So if you're looking for a search engine optimization side of things, and you're not technical and you don't understand that, at least go over to Google and understand Google My Business and claim your business and start to learn the ins and outs of that.
And that is SEO is, we covered that a lot in the MBA classes that I took from you, but it's easy to get lost in that.
Right.
And you also, to me, the next thing to do, and we'll do some SEO and we'll do some GMB, but not a lot. We want to look more at just our social,
right?
What's paid. What kind of ads should we buy? Specifically, Facebook boosts.
Right.
That seems to get the most bang for the buck. Of course, I'm not paying what you're paying, because I don't know how you get such low numbers on your cost per thousands. But we'll buy some of that. Now, do you recommend that the average small business or local marketer gets into that game?
So you said a word in that conversation right there that triggered me to know exactly where you're at. You said boost, right? Okay, so what are you doing? Posting something and boosting the content by the little button? Exactly. So there's multiple ways to do different advertising. So I'm assuming you're talking about Facebook at the moment,
Yes.
right? Okay. So if you put content out there onto Facebook and say you hit that little boost button, you're not going to get as great results as if you were to actually launch your business manager and your ads manager in Facebook and start to do ads that way, right? I like to talk with companies and I say, how advanced are we when we start talking about social advertising? And they'll look at me, they're like, well, we know that there's ads. And I go, okay, have you ever done any? And yeah, I hear the word boost a lot. And I say, okay, do you have an ads manager set up yet? And they go, what is that? Okay, now I already know where you're at. If I hear, yes, we have an ads manager, we had somebody working on it, we've got campaigns in there, now I know they are farther down the line than the other people. If there are people that go, what is a boost? Then we're at the very beginning, right? So there's this full spectrum that you have to look at, and it's, do you understand what advertising is on social? And if they say boost, I know, okay, we've moved over a little bit. There's a little bit more of an idea what's going on. But then, are we dealing with the ads manager? Are we doing tracking? Are we doing remarketing? If I'm having those conversations, I can sit down and really have a really good conversation with them to kind of, put them where they need to be. You mentioned paid, but there's also the own side, right? So you guys, obviously, with all the sports that you're doing, you're promoting all kinds of content through Facebook and Instagram and probably a couple other platforms, and you're trying to grow that base. And you're doing things, and for those of you out here, Jim, I see him taking notes every once in a while, and I think he's taking it back to the team, which I'm sure he is, which is great, right? But the idea is, how well do you know those platforms? So if you're on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, YouTube, etc., what are the things that are working? So I was on YouTube the other day and I was doing some research for a client, and I was starting to understand where they needed to be simply based off of the searches. So you can go over to YouTube and you can actually start to understand what people are searching for and build content for the number of impressions that are typically being searched, right? So it's just like like if you go to Google and you type something up, YouTube is actually kind of seen as a new search engine, because I was on it earlier today searching something and watching a 3-minute video to learn something that I didn't know. But think of it in terms of that, where you can start to uncover content that people are looking for that you might not have ever thought about, right? So there's the social side on the own side, there's the social side on the paid side, and it's funny because here at when I teach at the university, we have split our classes into owned and paid, and then we have, media planning and all this other stuff. But owned, we focus on website development, right? And a lot of people that are listening, they probably have a website, or they're working on a website, or maybe they're advanced and they have a really great website. But those are things that people need, right? People want to get some kind of information, so you have to have one of those. And that's another thing. That's a definite must, right? So if you don't have a website, you need to get one. And if you don't want to go through the whole process of building a huge website, Google My Business actually will allow you to create a website there and use that.
AI will make it for you even right now.
Right, pretty much.
I do want to just review from one of the past episodes that kind of stuck with us. Mm-hmm. Is that, you were talking about, like, on Facebook, if you have a local business, you just want to tell people how great you are and you want 100,000 people to see it. But that's not how it works. You have to do things that will get some interactions. Mm-hmm. One way or another. It has to be so crucial to them that they will click on it, they'll watch it, they'll like it, whatever, maybe leave a comment, some way go into that. And I've been looking at our feed. I don't have anything to do with it. I got another guy. Right. And in the past 3 weeks, we've had, I think, 3 posts that have gotten over 50,000 views or looks. And then we have a bunch of them in between. Hey, this game's coming up tonight, and they get like 3 likes or 4 likes. And it just goes back to, you guys got to go back to one of the previous episodes where it was like a light bulb that went off. Like, wow, you can't just put those up there to promote your business. You got to ask them. Like when we're putting games up now, all right, who's going to win? Or we'll have a clip from a previous game or whatever just to promote for people to watch the game that night. And that has been a crucial part of the owned part of this social media for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's essential, right? So now you can post content that doesn't get a whole lot of engagement, and people might still see that, right? And that's fine. What you're saying is you're getting engagement.
We're getting engagement on like posts that should be getting it.
Right.
Like, one of them got like 60,000 views on a video that we knew was going to be pretty good. We didn't think it would be that big. But then right after it, it's like, hey, watch the South Central Westville girls basketball game. It's on tonight at 7 o'clock. 3 likes, nothing. And so I don't know how to balance that, but we want to tell people the game's on one way or another.
Yeah, I think, continue to post that kind of content, but make sure that you're still getting those large engagement numbers on other posts, and people will see it, right? So just because you get 3 on that one doesn't mean that people aren't seeing it. Maybe it's just they don't want to engage with it. They see it, great, that's fine. It's a reminder. And that's really what we're trying to do is continually remind, but the larger engagement ones are the ones that are really keeping you in that feed overall. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like you're doing a good job.
Well, yeah, your podcast made us realize that we can't do too many of those 3 likes because then it affects us in the algorithm, and we don't want to do that. So, we're trying to cut those down. Anyways, let's move on to the musts to focus on, of course, are the website, a little bit of SEO if you want to go that direction, social. You can just look at your thing, or you can start buying some ads.
Right.
And I don't even know. I know the producer, Adriana, probably doesn't know either. Do we have Ads Manager? I would have no idea. If I know we've boosted a number of posts, I don't know if we have ads.
We handle that through our social media when it comes into monetizing. So sometimes they will show ads, but then advertisements, I would think Peter would handle those.
Yeah, so we probably have that. But one of the things that I really took out of your courses at PNW was the use of email. Mm-hmm. And I used to kind of think it was like, I don't want to deal with this. But we've had some good impact with that. Right. Talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we talked in a previous episode about pulling people off of social, right, and getting their emails for some kind of messaging, whatever it may be. Email to me, everyone says it's dying. Anyone that's in marketing realizes it's not. We continue to open the emails that are relevant to us, provide some value. It's when I communicate with you, when I send you an email, it should be of some value to you. It should not be a promotional message, buy. It really should be offering you some kind of value. And too many people go out there and just put a product and here, buy this now. And over time, that we get bored with that.
You get in the spam folder.
Yeah, you get in the spam folder. And that is not a good look. Right? Because you're losing, it's the same thing as social, where you start, if you end up in the spam folder, it's the same thing as not showing up because no one's engaging with you. So what we want to do is we want to provide some kind of value. We want back and forth communication. Email is a communication device between 2 people. It is not a one-way device. So, how do you offer some kind of value, but also get them to respond to you? Maybe ask them a question in the email and see if they'll respond to it. Email has changed over the last couple of years, and I don't want to get into the technical things, but you've got the CAN-SPAM Act, and other countries have their own versions. And when Apple made the update, open rates became irrelevant. So really, there's a lot of different metrics that you have to look at. But some of my clients in the past, they send out emails. I've sent out emails, and you turn a day that's $100 day into a $5,000 day just by sending an email. It's an amazing process, and that is what I'm saying. Always build some kind of customer list and get the emails, because that's an easy way to have some communication between the 2 of you.
All right, so let's review some of the things for today. All right, we're basically taking an overview and understanding that the average local marketer does not have all day to spend on this. So you kind of got to just take an inventory and make a call. How much time do I want to spend on this? It'd be one of the very first things, right?
Right.
And what's your mental attitude toward the marketing?
So, I mean, with that is we have so much time in a day, right? So 24 hours in a day is never going to be 24 and a half or 27. That's how much time we have. And we only have so much time on this planet. It's the one variable that keeps us all together. It doesn't matter if you're Elon with his billions of dollars or you're somebody with a dollar to their name. You cannot buy more time. So we have to take that time and really understand. We have to do the things that are easy for us, that we understand and can accomplish quickly, right? And if we start to work on, I've had these things where I've gotten into, I had this one website years ago, and I had to learn how to do some different kind of coding, not HTML. And I'm in this thing for hours and hours and hours for like 3 weeks. And after I was done with it, I said, why did I just do that? I could have hired somebody and they could have had all of this done in 5 hours. And I've just spent 3 weeks working on this. And if you start to kind of think how much your time is worth, are we talking about $20 an hour? Are we talking about $200 an hour? Do the math on it and realize it's just easier to find the things that you're good at and that you can do quick, and find other people that can do things much faster than you.
What about budget?
Budget is it's interesting, right? So some people will go out there and they're just like, okay, I want to spend $25. And I go, okay, that's great. We can do that. Or how long are we doing that? Well, that's the whole budget. Okay, that's fine. If that's what you're comfortable with, let's try some things. It's not going to go far, but understand that we can try it. Look at it in terms of what are your goals, right? So we talked about the funnel and awareness and consideration, all those types of things. You're trying to generate awareness for people to come into your business or to call your service business, to come out and change a HVAC system or whatever it may be. If we don't spend the dollars, we have to be really good at own social. We have to be really good at talking to people when we're outside of our business to get them to understand who we are. So the question just becomes is how busy do you want to become? And can you tie those dollars back to actual sales, right? Or can you tie them back to an increase in sales? So I've had this conversation with, I would say 60, 70% of businesses, and ask them, what do your numbers look like? What's your average daily revenue? What's your average ticket? And most people have no idea. And what I say to them is, if you brought in 10 new customers tomorrow, what is that worth to you? And they don't know what it's worth, right? So it's the tracking. People aren't good at that. So we have to understand that part, because if you go out there and spend $1,000 on a campaign and you didn't see an uptick in any sales, then it's not working, right? If you spend $1,000 and you see all of a sudden you have $10,000 additional revenue this month, where did it come from? The worst case, you can attribute some of that to that, right? Even if you're not well versed in tracking.
Finally, loyalty programs, database referrals, that kind of stuff. It's really just kind of customer relations. I mean, what do you say to people? How big of an issue should that be for you, especially if you're just starting out?
If you don't know your customers, you don't know anything. Right. So I always say start with your customers when you're talking about where you're going to go in marketing. If you do not understand their wants, needs, demands, you do not understand the messaging that needs to go to them, you're wasting your money and your time. Those of the people that are listening to this podcast are looking for short, quick snippets of information that they can take back and put to use in their business. We don't waste your time. We're not on here for 3 hours. We try to keep it to 30 minutes. We try to cover one topic every single time. We try to keep it simple. You talk about the Matt Hansen way of 3, right? So keeping it very simple and short ideas. And we try to give you some advice as we head out of the podcast that you can then go and take. We understand it because we've been on your side. We are on your side right now. We know that you are looking for these types of things. And if you don't get them, you're going to go somewhere else. That's what we need to understand. So whether it's a website or whether it's your social media or whether it's your email database, understand your customers and create programs around them. You hear the term affiliate program and all this other stuff. Make your customers the the people that are out there talking about you, right? So again, for years, and I've been teaching here for years, everyone, I hear it probably multiple times a month. I wish I could just come take your class, which is what led to this. So every time I hear it now,
dude. It's a lot of work.
It is. But if you were focused on the one thing that you're good at and start to learn one additional thing at a time, then you're in much better space, right? So you may not ever want to go back into email. You've got other people to do that. You enjoy the video content, the audio content, and that's where you're good at. So focus on that and let everybody else on your team focus on the things that they're good at. And that really, truly is the way to do it. If you are not an expert, you have to ask yourself, do I want to become an expert, or is it easier for me to just go out there and find someone that can do it for me?
Marketing expert, becoming a marketing expert in one. And I asked him, what's the next word? And he's like, no, that's just it, in one.
In one.
And that, I think, is the overriding idea we talked about a lot today. But it's really more of an attitude of, all right, I can maybe do one thing. Do you remember when I took a final and I had gone to the Purdue? I followed Purdue, and I was at Hartford, and it was raining. And I told my wife, I go, well, it's between games. I got to take my final on the phone. I've done all the work, and it's so loud in the bar. I have to walk outside, and I have to do this final in the rain. And it's very similar to the Matthew McConaughey commercial that's very popular right now, where he gets splashed by water.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we didn't know each other that well then, but it was at the time, honestly, where I was trying to learn everything. And I realized that was probably a little bit much for me to try to get really good at all these areas. When you're right, there's like one or two things we do right. And I think that's the message today, right? Just get good at one.
Get good at one. I mean, be comfortable. Don't be try to be an expert in everything, right? So again, going back to the race car, I would love to drive a race car. Am I going to go? I am not built like a race car driver. I am not, 5'2", 100 pounds, and can fly around a track at 200 miles an hour. Doesn't matter how much I learn, I'm never going to be able to do that. So let the other people do it. Have fun, right? I'll watch it on TV. I'll watch it at the track, but I'm never going to be that expert. And there's multiple things. People come to me all the time in marketing, and they'll say, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z. And I'll say, I am not an expert in that. But what I can do is turn you over to somebody that is. And that really, everyone thinks just because I've been doing this so long that I know everything. And I'm telling you, I am just like you. I'm always learning new things. Things are changing, right? I can give you advice today, and in 6 months, it's going to be different, right? Because all of the different platforms change everything.
And one of the things he's learning is podcasting.
I am. So it's been interesting.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. This is episode 5, Less is More, becoming a marketing expert in one. And until next time, we'll see you later.